you cannot claim to be a Republican in the tradition of the United Irish Men and Women and in the tradition of the 1916 Proclamation if you do not oppose all forms of sectarianism. Community workers, the integrated education and religious sectors, trade unions and many others have done much to challenge sectarianism. However, a step change in attitudes and actions is required. Sinn Féin has proposed that robust anti-sectarianism measures be agreed during all recent negotiations. The DUP and others in political unionism are opposed to that approach. It is unacceptable today that unionist politicians acquiesce in or encourage sectarian mindsets or behaviour. Anti-sectarianism is not a zero-sum concept to be negotiated out on a win-or-lose basis. Anti-sectarianism must be central to a unite and rights, equality-based society. It should be embraced as a quality-of-life issue. We must prevent sectarianism becoming our communal race to the bottom. Adherence to the anti-sectarianism principles of the Good Friday Agreement is the starting point for us all. Sinn Féin wants sectarianism to be defined as hate crime in legislation. We believe that all politicians and civic leaders must take the lead in its eradication from in the midst of our society. Acharja, I commend to you one community tackling the scourge of sectarianism as this Ard Esh and our party's contribution to developing a new public discourse. Anti-sectarianism should be common ground for building bridges and integrating society. It is key to unlocking the way forward to a shared and reconciled society and, crucially, a new phase of our peace process. A critical mass of opinion and action is now needed to bring that about. And it is in that spirit, Acharja, Corrigi Fáilte, Rivarni Kainshore and Seanocht, Pete Sherlow.
Thank you very much. I am from a unionist background, but do I feel out of place tonight? I do not, because I am welcome. One time I did feel out of place was when I was going to a Rangers Celtic game, and I was walking towards the ground. I realised that my friend who had the tickets pointed out that we were sitting in the Celtic end. I quickly gave him my coat because he was wearing a Rangers shirt. This was quite embarrassing for him because he was about 4 stone lighter and he looked like a man who had turned up in a one-man tent. As we entered the ground and sat down, the first thing we heard was that usual statement we have at our sporting occasions: racism and sectarianism will not be accepted. As soon as that ended, some, and I use the word some because some's an important word when we talk about sectarianism, some Celtic fans sang a song in which they said that we'd rather be Pakistani, not the word they used, than abroad. That was responded to by some Rangers fans singing a song saying that they were up to their knees in Catholic, not the word they used, blood. The guy beside me who's a Celtic fan turned to me and said, "Well, these Rangers fans never change." I turned to him and said, "What about the Celtic fans?" "Oh, that's different. They're just having a laugh." I never went back. Around the same time, my son took up playing rugby at Malone Rugby Club in East Belfast. All of the new parents were called into the clubhouse to hear about the rules of the club. A small man walked in, tough-looking, hard, an ex-RUC man, and he said, "This club has one rule. It's a very simple rule. If you're a bigot, a sectarian, a homophobe, or a racist, there's the door. Get out." I decided to stay. That was leadership. One of the things that is important in our identity is the influence of our families. At the time of partition, my great-grandfather tried to form trade unions in Lisburn. He was blacklisted by Catholic and Protestant employers. One time, my grandfather was harangued because he stood up for a Catholic woman. She had come out to see the Queen, who was coming on past where they lived. It was the time of her coronation. A bigot turned to her and said, "You're not welcome here. The Queen doesn't want to see the likes of you." My grandfather jumped over the fence and grabbed him and said, "Her 2 sons fought for king and country, and your two sons hid in the factory when they were fighting fascism. My own father would have clipped my ears if I'd ever said anything that was sectarian. I think it's very important to make this point. Just because you're pro-union, just because you're a unionist, it doesn't mean that you are sectarian. To think that is true is itself inherently sectarian. There are people who want change. So what is sectarianism? What is sectarianism? We know one thing about sectarianism. It's vicious, it's nasty, it's repugnant, it's insidious, it's against social justice, and it's against change. It is acrimonious, and it is something that we should all address. Sectarianism is artificial. If sectarianism is created, we can make it go away. We can build something which is much better than the artificial nature of what a sectarian society is. We have come through a terrible past. We cannot be anything but sectarianized. But given that we are sectarianized, it doesn't mean that we are sectarian. We have to understand another thing about sectarianism. It is the idea about exclusiveness. That idea that our identity is virtuous, our identity is righteous, our identity is authentic. A Republican said to me recently, Republicans are the beautiful people. I said, if looks are in the eye of the beholder, who are the ugly people? He gave me a look. I haven't really thought this out. If your opponents are misguided, then that begs the question, if your opponents and my opponents are misguided, then what do we have to offer them? If there is nothing we have to offer them other than the fact that we are exceptional and they are flawed, there is nothing we can do with each other. If your identity is non-negotiable and if it has no failings, then you will believe that you're stigma-free. You will hear any challenge to your identity as an attempt to shame you. There will be no space for constructive criticism. We will remain in the prison of this identity trap which tells us that we are superior. We are no such thing. We are together. We are people who have to work and live and tolerate each other in ways that are for the future. One of the things about the past, we can argue about the past morning, noon and night. A nation that is wise will keep one eye on the past. A nation that is foolish, which keeps two eyes on the past, is blind. Convincing the other side, you convincing me or me convincing you that what you did in the past was wrong, will not diminish or even help anybody with their suffering. So what is anti-sectarianism? Here's an example of anti-sectarianism. During the conflict, people tried to show humanity and grace to each other. A woman in Ardoyne once showed me a letter. Her son was the victim of a sectarian murder. She showed me this letter which read as follows. I am a Protestant from the Shankill. I am proud of that and my Protestant faith, but I never wanted anything to happen to your son or anyone else's son. I enclose a Bible signed by members of my congregation. If we're going to challenge sectarianism, we are challenging power. And if we're going to challenge power, we should find those letters. We should find that grace. We should find that decency. And we should talk about it. Because the conflict was not just about us against them. The conflict was also, we understand you as us. We understand you as part of what we are. If we want an interdependent society, then we need to realise that our identities need each other. Our identities are of each other. We must rupture our ethnic seclusion. We must challenge the idea that we're independent from each other. We must challenge the idea that we do not coexist and that we do not share. This speech is an act of interdependence. I, as someone who is different to you, would not write your motion in the way that you did. I would have framed it differently, but I support its aims. Knowing that we are saying the same thing but differently is important. But what is much more important is that we cannot challenge sectarianism unless we do it together. That is crucially important. What we need to understand, I've nearly finished, you'll be glad to hear. Those prods do go on. What we need to understand is this. Identities are interlinked. All Irish, Ulster Scots, Hindu, Sikh, etc. Sectarianism is telling people they are not welcome. When I was at university, I was sitting with a Republican and a Unionist, and there were posters on the wall for the Students' Union election. And my friend turned to me, the Unionist turned to me and said, who will we vote for, Amy or Granny? The Republican leant over and sighed and went, I think you mean Anya and Grania. That was not a lack of knowledge, it was not prejudice, it was the fundamental problem with our identities. They are not well enough acquainted. It is not a shameful thing. The most shameful thing about that was the guy who corrected me was from Lurgan. One of the things, and just to finish off, that is important, if we're going to challenge sectarianism, we need evidence. We do studies at the University of Liverpool on the electorate. The majority of Protestants support equal marriage. If you look at that data, and I presented that data recently to the British-Irish Parliamentary Group, a unionist MLA went, nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. That is not true. The Protestant people do not support equal marriage. A Sinn Féin person turned around to me like Victor Meldrew and went, I don't believe it. Why would you not believe that? Because things are changing. That same data tells us something very important. Protestants under the age of 40 are pro-union. They are more pro-choice, more equal marriage, more mixed marriage, and more supportive of integrated schools than Sinn Féin voters. If that comes as a surprise to you, you must ask yourself the question, why? If we are truly supportive of conflict transformation, then we need to accept that the end result is not to change our identities. We have nothing to fear. We need to realize that our identities should be practiced differently. If we do not hear what we are being told because it does not fit our narrative of who we are, then we are being thoughtless. If we do not accept the things that are painful and uncomfortable, then we will live in a perpetual state of sectarianized fear. The gut will forever rule the mind. If sectarianism is built on prejudice, it will wilt on the demise of bigotry. And this is the final thing I want to say. The importance of moving towards a society where there's respect and understanding of each other's traditions cannot be stressed enough. Difference in our society must cease to be barriers. Difference must be recognised and appreciated and celebrated. I believe this is a tremendous time in our history, a time of opportunity, of grasp. Not to do so would be extremely foolish. Those are not my words, those are the words of Martin McGuinness. Thank you.
Okay, Goran Mila Mayoga for that. Can we have our speakers resume? Thanks, Conor.
Conor Murphy speaking on behalf of the Ard Comhairle, proposing emergency motion 10. Carja, when Martin resigned as Deputy First Minister and called time on inequality, the denial of rights and allegations of corruption in the government, he made it clear there would be no return to the status quo. That position was overwhelmingly endorsed by a Nationalist and Republican electorate in 2 successive elections earlier this year. We made it clear that we would not accept the denial of rights, the lack of genuine partnership government and the lack of respect for an Irish identity. Our electorate shared that view and continue to offer us very solid support for that position. For the last 10 months, we've been involved in a process of negotiations at Stormont to see the establishment of an executive based on the principles of equality, integrity and respect. We entered those negotiations on a positive basis, as we always do, to deliver for the electorate. We were prepared to give and take, to be flexible in order to reach a solution. That's what you do in negotiations. We tried for 10 months, we attempted to negotiate the delivery of basic rights with the DUP, but it was clear they either weren't willing or perhaps capable of forming a government based on the principles of the Good Friday Agreement. Buoyed up by their deal with the Tories, the DUP have showed little interest in moving on the key issues. Instead, they have hitched themselves to the Tories to deliver Brexit and austerity, regardless of the negative impact that will have on the people of the North. They are opposed to a rights-based society which delivers for everyone. Those negotiations have now ended without reaching a breakthrough, and that failure is a direct result of the attitudes of the DUP and their allies in the British government. Theresa May's government is dependent on the DUP for its political survival and has continued to default on its own commitments to previous agreements. For our part, we remain committed to delivering our objectives. The institutions can only function on a sustainable basis if they are based on the principles of the Good Friday Agreement. Many in the leadership of political unionism still don't seem to get that. The leader of the DUP says the Irish language is no threat to her political outlook. Of course it isn't. It enriches the lives of all those who have come to embrace it across all communities. But then the DUP go on to say giving Irish speakers basic rights would lead to cultural domination. I often reflect on that as I drive up to Stormont, as I cross Queen Elizabeth Bridge, travel along the Prince of Wales Avenue, past the statue of Carson, into a building with Britannia on the roof, and on occasions not 1 but 2 Union flags, and then meet the statue of Craigavon at the top of the stairs. I think to myself, we really need to do more to reflect Unionist political culture in this place. Carja, it's long past time that unionists accepted that parity of esteem and equality are basic entry requirements for the institution of the Good Friday Agreements, not optional add-ons. There is nothing to fear from a rights-based society, from a Bill of Rights, from language rights, from marriage equality, the right to a legacy inquest, from equality. We know what it was like to be on the receiving end of cultural dominance and a misrule in a one-party union state. Not only will we not accept or return to those days, we have no desire to put anyone else or any other community through that. It is the opposite of what we are about as Republicans. What we are about is equality, and we will accept nothing less. While the latest round of negotiations ended without agreement, Sinn Féin will continue to work to see the establishment of an executive and political institutions. We have never shied away from talks, and we are not going to start now. But those talks need to be meaningful. To have an agreement as an objective, talks for talk's sake have no credibility. But if the DUP prove unwilling or unable to accept the basic requirements of the Good Friday Agreement, then the two governments, as co-guarantors of that agreement, must act to ensure that rights are protected and commitments delivered on. The peace process and the institutions of the Good Friday Agreement are more important than the short-term needs of the current British government or the electoral prospects of Fine Gael. Citizens in the North are entitled to the same rights as citizens across this island and on our neighbouring island. Sinn Féin remain committed to the success of our peace process and the delivery of our rights. That will be our focus in the time ahead.
2 minutes speaking time.
Trúnónói gur mhaigh orlia Carja nálo Donnalia try arba first to her Harkunan art Corlia a current yeden rune Kied Shiani August Kied is a shockto August Igmolu rune Kied Shaska shocked Divsha. Comrades rune motion 169 calls for the introduction of mandatory voting. That is a fine principle and something we would always love to see, but the obligation should fall on us to energise and provide the kind of politics that encourages people to come out and vote. What the motion fails to do is outline what repercussions or what penalties will be put in place. So at a time when we're trying to engage people, we shouldn't be penalising those who aren't in a position to cast their vote. When Sinn Féin 7 Shanadori entered Leinster House last year, Jerry Adams told us we had to get the presidential voting rights sorted for citizens in the North. Motion 170 tries to do away with the president. So they're not doing
folks, just a wee bit of order, please.
They're not giving us a help in that regard, so we will be opposing it on that basis, given the political and symbolic importance of the office. Motion 167 refers to that. It refers to the equality of citizenship that Conor Murphy outlined here today, and affording citizens in the North their full rights and entitlements as Irish citizens, and the right to vote for the President of Ireland is at the heart of that. So, Mullam Shindiv, Garamai.
Now. Okay, a bit of order when we have our speakers on, please.
Barairia Kharja, Nichunima Wajib, Bualim Treslu Lecholuna, Largailga, Eganardesh, Bualim Treslu Leshabarti, Adar, the profile Nagailga, Eganardesh, Agus Nubber Tomadiana, a Gachlevel, like Nakumun, Corley Cantor, Agus Marshinja, Ohiv Nagailga, Ta policy, Agentir, Tansha. Agus Tamagera Shina Wallagib, Chirgantanga, Chirgananum, Hogilo Robberistach, in the policy shin, Agus Gohefigulerson, and our Corley Boalam and policy a Walla. Kangan the Kuvni Tagum Martin McGuinness, Naga Kuru and Battle Bus Melesh, Nuravisha Rick Lahitau on the Hoftranach, Margaret Numedawan Gailga Legina Ege, Lelina Disborough their TG Kahar, the Martin Ambro de Lassa Gailga. But do Mordo on Gailga, Achunyashalesh, agus Duchalin, Granum Mosagantanga, so on Dulan the Taripsha, a Gimachton Ardesha, na Usads on Gailga to add, Bech Umosad on Gailga at Hagdini Timpelart, Agus Usadi Maskin Fobble, Nilewado ni a Ralish na party ha Elegus and Realtus, a Ve Kurna Gailga Hunkeen, Manuel Mutena Kurna Gailga Hunkeen, so Mollum on Rune, Hina Shay, he and Agus Takagi Lash and Rune, Gurmilamagi.
Trevor.
Linda Dillon, MLA from Mid-Ulster and Sinn Féin's Northern spokesperson on legacy. I'm going to shorten this speech because we're being told that we have very little time. The first thing I want to say in relation to this is that I'm very conscious that there are a number of people in this room that actually are affected by the legacy issues. We have families here who have lost fallen volunteers, civilians, children killed by plastic bullets. So first and foremost, I just want to acknowledge you and recognise that you're in the room, and thank you for sticking by us. I want to speak to motions 158, 159 and 163 addressing legacy, or more accurately, failure by the British Government to implement mechanisms and resource the legacy inquest process in line with the Lord Chief Justice's proposals. Families are courageously taking on the system in the courts, and the judgments are time and time again fighting in their favour, but the PSNI are impeding cases by their failure to disclose information and by wasting time and taxpayers' money on foolhardy appeals. The PSNI failure to comply with judgments in the High Court could be viewed as contempt of court, and you can be sure if you or I were in contempt of court, we would be held accountable. PSNI's failure to comply with the recent judgments, damaging their own standing not only in Republican and Nationalist communities, but indeed it is clear to be seen the frustration of the judiciary and the wider community. Families are entitled in the first instance to a full and proper inquest into the death of their loved ones, and a full and independent investigation to establish the truth of what happened. The Ombudsman's Office has done some excellent work, but needs to be properly resourced. In recent weeks, a bill was lodged in Westminster proposing that an amnesty be granted to British soldiers involved in killings here, and this was supported by 2 DUP MPs, the party who argued there would be no amnesties. This flies in the face of the legacy mechanisms agreed at Stormont House and just adds further to the frustration and anger of families. The British Government now need to honour their international obligations and honour their obligations to the families who are awaiting inquests, investigations, truth and justice without any further delay or obstruction,
Thank you,
as the next generation of families are going to take on this fight.
Díadíomh Harja, Clayton McAllister.
Can we get some quiet in the hall, please?
Corley Cantor Interim Who, August All School in the Manrina and Mulfershire, and I'm speaking in favour of motion 163. Withholding funding necessary to proceed with outstanding legacy inquests prevents them from moving forward. And once again, families are faced with political obstacles designed to keep the truth hidden from them or to provide stalling tactics on the release of this information. And comrades, let's remember that these are ideological to enable post-conflict revisionism. There's absolutely no justification for this. And Chris's words earlier, referencing particular families, some of whom are in the room today, and their struggle was fitting for us as to why they could cost them from we shouldn't cost them from getting the truth and justice they deserve, as if they haven't already been through enough. It's well established that many cases raise much needed questions about the wider state practice of collusion, and the silence of the establishment and the BBC after No Stone Unturned was released in Loughlin Island said it all. That silence was loud enough for the families in our communities who are seeking truth and justice. So all I ask you to do is to send a clear message from this RDS today to the families that we stand firmly with, and also to the British Government. We will not accept anything less than the sufficient resources and the implementation of the agreed legacy mechanisms. Vote for motion 163.
Listen, folks, can I just ask people to have some respect for our speakers and to keep the noise levels down when people are trying to present their speeches, please?
I have 1 minute. I was told Jerry Slavin, Volunteer Marade Barrels, Common, Galway. I'm asking you to support motion 169. I've been a compulsory voting all my life. Why, you might ask? Because there's no compulsory voting in Ireland. Article 16, 1.2 of our Constitution says it's a right for all citizens. Well, the Constitution never took into account my mother, because in our house, your constitutional right went right out the window. Voting in our house wasn't a right, it was your civic duty. When you turned 17, my mother gave you the money for a provisional driver's licence, learner ed thing now, and when you were 18, she made sure we were registered to vote. With the speech, always vote. You're powerless if you don't vote. It's the last bit of democracy left. Democracy means government by the people, for the people. And if you want a true democracy, you have to vote. My mother was the political heartbeat of our family. Sadly, she passed before the centenary. She would have been devastated with poor Martin's early passing, but she knew and would have been pure thrilled with Michelle taking his place. 22 countries have compulsory voting in the world. Belgium since 1892, Australia since 1924, and since Australia brought it in, used to be 47%, now it's 94%. Study shows that all citizens of a country where compulsory voting is in, you get a better representation, calibre of the candidate improves, increases political stability, and you have a genuine legitimacy and mandate to govern. Article 16.1.2 gives all our citizens the right to vote. A slight restriction on this freedom is a small price to pay to give credibility, legitimacy, and a bit more equality to our political institutions. It has been shown in Australia, casting a vote is not mandatory. Showing up is. Placing the ballot in the ballot box is. I urge you to support this motion to bring about true political change in Irish politics. Thank you very much, Gurmia.
Thanks very much.
Rosalie Lera, Common Bob Smith, Dundrumma, agus I fiú Gael go Bhlachlia. Tá mise ag leart arún Céad Seascahain, agus ag mulla an document seo Policy Gaelga Sinn Féin de Gábhlis a Seachtaig. Mar so de cácanis, tá Sinn Féin Tumat an Gaelga. Támid, Tumanta, ag sé aimimtá agin na ábhúnú an tanga, mar tanga laurtha fud fad an tíre. Támid tumanta de cearta, teanga a thuirt de Gaelgóirí, agus I de Curry Bhaim, ó Carn Tucker go Círí ó Belfirsta go Bailliá Clia. Ní féidir le héine rá gur béal grá atá ag Sinn Féin don Gaelga. Agus ní féidir a héine ach gur bí Sinn Féin an pártaí políteachta is díalse agus is dígusí don tanga. Is gníomhathe tanga muid fad in Sinn Féin agus is cúis mór bród é sin domsa. Tá go leor mela I le físe agus curchuige Sinn Féin mad leis an Gaelga. Mullam garód mac áibh ceanara atá an Gaelga I grílár héal a hacian agus a tugan spór agus a spragan muid gníomhathe na teanga. Mullam ar bheisirí sa tionol, san Oireachtas agus a Bhroiséal. Mullam sibse camrádathe agus a gníomhathe teanga as farníoseach den teanga agus an Gaelga. Mullam an policy document seo. Ghlacha leis mar phléifápéis Gaelga an Uirigh. Tá sé pléite agus áfléite agus mullam díobh sé ghlacha leis in mlína. Is policy ille ilanda curta le céile ag grúpa ille ilanda agus anbha. Gur míle.
Gurmaigh, I want you to support the motions here tonight by the Ard Comhairle in support of Irish unity. And there's just one message I want to bring loud and clear. Irish unity is an inevitable consequence of the history of this country. It is going to happen. But there is a difficulty that we face. The republic that was declared in 1916 is not an inevitable consequence of that. To achieve that republic in a united Ireland will require the work of every single person, not just in this room, but everywhere across the length and breadth of this country. So we need not to dedicate ourselves only to Irish unity, but to dedicate ourselves to the republic and everything it stands for. Gurna míle maigad.
Emma Rogan, MLA for South Down. I helped set up the campaign for truth and justice of what happened in Loughlin Island in our village almost 10 years ago. The reaction this week to the film No Stone Unturned has been phenomenal. The wider public have finally been given the facts in a clear and coherent manner, and they are shocked and repulsed that this atrocity was not only facilitated by the British state but subsequently covered up. 6 families lost loved ones, 5 men were injured, and more bore the ongoing effects of the trauma of that night. Our community was rocked to its core. We know the truth, and now you know the truth, but we have no accountability. The facts of Loughlin Island should boil the blood of those who cherish the concept of society based on justice, rights, and equality for all. We will continue our campaign for the British state to acknowledge their involvement and again call on a public apology in the memory of these 6 innocent men. Thank you.
Okay, folks, so that's the end of today's debate. I'd just like to thank all our speakers, and we're going to go ahead now and put the motions to the floor for votes. So we're going to start off with the emergency motion number 10, and that's in your yellow booklet. So again, can I ask delegates just to indicate clearly with your cards what way you are voting. So emergency motion number 10. Evolver. An aye? Okay, Taoiseach Glachta. We'll move on now to motion number 152. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 153. Evolver. An aye? Okay, Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 154. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 154. Alex, keep me right here. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 155. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 156. 156? 156. Alex is trying to confuse me. Evolver. An aye? Okay, Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 157. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 158. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 159. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 160. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 161. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 162. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 163. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 164. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 165. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 166. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 167. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 168. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Motion number 169. Evolver. An aye? Taoiseach Glachta. Okay. Okay, apologies. Tellers, please. And then I call the vote again. Okay. I thought you could say you weren't sure. Just forgive me. I'm sure you can take the vote again. Okay. Look, forgive me for that. I wasn't sure. Okay, look, folks, we're going to take that vote again. I wasn't sure about that one. Okay, so I'm going to take the vote again, okay? So motion number 169. Evolver. Okay, an aye? Okay. Is it false? Okay, could I call for tellers, please? Okay. Okay, folks, so motion 169, for all those in for, if you can raise, okay, and keep them up, please. Okay, folks, and all those motion 169 for anyone voting against. And if you could hold your hands in the air, please.
Would Joe Riley please make his way to the side of the stage, please?
Okay, just bear with us for another few minutes, folks. Thanks. Okay, folks, the tellers are just counting the votes. We're going to move on. We'll come back when the votes are counted. We're going to move on to motion 170. Okay, so Evolver. An aye? Okay. Taishe Culture. And then finally, motion number 171. Evolver. An aye? Okay. Taishe Galta. Just a few minutes, thanks. Okay, folks, 169 was lost. Okay? Defeated.
Take everything off the stage.
Thanks, Ollie. Okay, might you have to go over there?
Karja, can we ask anybody who's not in the hall to please start making your way in? Just to remind delegates that once all seats are filled, we won't be able to admit any further people into the main hall. So please, if you want to be here live, make your way through. Karja, can I take this opportunity to ask you to show all your appreciation for the Sinn Féin staff and volunteers who have made this Ardèche such a terrific success. To our tellers, our stewards, our press office, all those who have managed to make Everton. This really is a fantastic party. So, I've been given the job of announcing the newly elected leadership Ard Comhairle for the incoming term. Some say it's just a job of filling space and time. I would never be so cynical. So, Karja, to all those who voted, particularly those who voted early and often, if that. Okay. Thank you. Thanks especially to the Sinn Féin election department who oversaw the elections. Can I just again ask if Joe Riley is in the hall? He's wanted on the left-hand side of the stage, please. And just to ask those delegates who are coming in to take their seats as quickly as possible. So, Karja, as you know, over the past day and a half, members have been voting to elect 6 male and 6 female ordinary members of the Ard Comhairle. I have them here. There's nothing ordinary about them. And also our National Officer Board. So, on the women's panel, the First Lady elected is my own leader, as it happens, a Derry woman, Martine Anderson. From County Tyrone, someone you may have heard of, Michelle O'Neill. As she walks past me, the next elected Dublin MEP, Lynn Boylan. You generally find with these things that there'll be a South Armagh person in the mix. Megan Farron, congratulations. From Galway, Mairead Farrell. Go hard, just Mairead. And from Dublin, Shanador Marie Devine. So that's our 6 female representatives. We now move on to what is affectionately known as the B team, the 6 male members of the Ard Comhairle. So from Belfast, Sean Murray. Carja, thanks for all your support. You've elected myself back onto the Ard Comhairle. Monaghan were due a win this year. From Southdown, the proud abstentionist MP, Chris Hazard. From Dublin, one of our new champions in the Dáil, Owen O'Brien. And a man who can't stop getting elected to things this year, Mayor of the City of Dublin, Micheál McDonagh. Looking at this, it seems to be very strong Dublin presence. We'll have to do something about this next year. And finally, from the Daoise, David Cullinan. At Carja, as you know, we also elected our National Officer Board this week. For the final time that the post will be directly elected by the Ardèche, our Director of Publicity, Kieran Quinn. We've elected 2 treasurers, another South Armagh man, Conor Murphy. And in order to help him prepare for his future role as the Minister of Finance, we've elected Pearse Doherty as our second treasurer. Take a seat. Take a seat. I have big news for you. Yes. Our chairperson, elected by the members, Declan Carney. Our General Secretary, the woman who makes everything in Sinn Féin tick, Dawn Doyle from Wexford. Carja, the members of Sinn Féin have elected as our last Uachtaráin from Dublin, Mary Lou MacDonald. And I am proud to say, and I hope I'm not the last person to say, that the members of Sinn Féin have elected once again as our President, Gerry Adams TD. For the photographers, that wasn't an announcement that Gerry was coming in. That was just an opportunity for us to stretch our legs. So listen, folks, that's the new Sinn Féin leadership. Your job as party members is to keep them busy and on their toes for the next 12 months. So listen, can we just ask people to continue making their way into the hall? There are, I think, a number of seats. We're going to continue to call people in until such stage as all seats are filled. Michelle, I don't know if you missed it, but you were elected to the Ard Comhairle, Coharjas. Mary Lou, commiserations, you were re-elected as Vice President.
Where do I go? Then here? Okay.
At some point. I'm finished? Yeah. Okay, thank you, folks. Up the rebels.
Folks, not to shame anyone, but there was a phone left in the ladies' toilets. I'm going to give it to Dawn. So if anyone's missing a phone, I've looked through your pictures and your videos, and no, I haven't. So the phone's with Dawn.
Michael from RTA. He'll tell you when to speak.
When you do that. Okay.
And he's going down to the camera.
I'll have to start by thanking McCarthy for not taking this speech on me today. Agus ní léon dá dúna atá ag freastal ar Ardashna ar feig na mblianta. This has to be the most emotionally charged Ardesh we have attended. And it's not just because of the constant reminder of our great loss earlier this year, with the absence of a much-loved face on the podium behind me, but it's also due to our mixed emotions about what our next speaker might be about to say. Giving leadership in any circumstance is difficult and challenging, but for Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness, giving leadership during a time of unprecedented civil upheaval and bitter conflict was even more so. And indeed, it was dangerous for them as they mapped a difficult path to bring our small nation from conflict to peace. Agus cé go bhfuil méid olmhór déanta aige Hanahan. Despite the sacrifices he, Colette and Garrod have made on our behalf to bring us to this, the strongest point in our history, we selfishly still want more. Being lucky enough to grow up in the Republican family, as an awful lot of us here tonight have done, there are many inspirational figures for us to try and emulate. I've often have spoken of heroes in my own life, such as Rita O'Hare and Anne O'Sullivan. But if I'm being honest, I've been holding out. As a child, I actually thought there was nobody like Gerry Adams. But then I grew up. Now, as an adult, I know that there isn't anyone like Gerry Adams. There isn't an icon of freedom struggle across the world who 40 years later still attracts huge crowds just to come and hear his words in every corner of this globe. and who, at 69 years of age, could cause excitement amongst my young adult students, and you did, when he joined Snapchat this week. And tonight, if you let me speak for you in front of all of our welcome and national guests and those watching us at home, I say on your behalf, and no other political leader in this country will have their membership united in saying that we absolutely admire and respect, but above all, we love this great giant on whose shoulders we stand, and no matter what he tells us tonight, he will always, always be our leader.
J.D. Bacarja agus Tafalcha Rove Aleg Hig Ardash Sinn Féin. A special Ced Mita Falcha to Friends of Sinn Féin USA and representatives of the North American Labour Movement. And best wishes to the President of the Friends of Sinn Féin USA, Jim Cullen, who is seriously ill. Falcha also to Friends of Sinn Féin in Canada and welcomes to our comrades from Cuba, Greece, Britain, from the Basque Country, from GUI NGL, and to all our foreign signatories and diplomats. A slán awaya to the Cuban ambassador Hermes and his band Kelia Anna. Love and solidarity greetings to the people of Palestine and the Gaza Strip and solidarity also to the people of Catalonia. Tá Mahoj Kancha Anok their son Makara, August McComrady, August our Gunara, Martin McGuinness, August the Bernie, August the Clan, Atal Lynn, and Shaw. We miss Martin. We miss all those comrades who died in the last year and in the decades of conflict. Spragan Shade and Wedge Goji and last Shaw, Lena Eisling. I was first elected Uachtaráin Sinn Féin in 1983. The war in the north was raging, and the hunger strikes 2 years before, and the deaths of Bobby Sands, they had dramatically altered the political landscape. Bobby's election in Fermanagh South Tyrone, Kieran Docks and Kevin Monaghan, Paddy Agnew and Louth, and the anti-H Block Armagh candidates elsewhere brought us into a new phase of struggle. Republicans had been at the heart of a culture of resistance, correctly, and I stress this, correctly standing strong against the brutality of the British state. Our leadership set about transforming that culture into a culture of change. In my first Ardèche speech as Uachtaráin, I said we needed an all-Ireland struggle. I warned against Sinn Féin activists standing on the sidelines, separate from and isolated from the people. And that imperative holds true today. I told that Ardèche that Sinn Féin's policies are not just some pleasant aims for some future hope for United Ireland, but are tough, practical policies that can give leadership and provide results. I reiterated our goals, the unity of the people and the end of partition. It's hard to say reiterate when you're stuck up here. This had to, I said, and has to include our unionist neighbours, who have every right to a full and equal involvement in shaping the future of this island. And I contended then, as I do today, that the economy should serve the people, not the other way round. That struggle for equality and fairness continues. And Sinn Féin, your party, are now in the leadership of that battle. 20 years ago, Cuipin O'Quillan was our sole Teach de Dala. Farmoy, Cuipin agus Daban Untach Bridge. Now we have 23 TDs, 7 Shanadori, 4 MEPs representing all parts of this island, 27 MLAs, 7 MPs, and over 250 councillors. And today, over 500,000 people vote for Sinn Féin. Furthermore, the perpetual unionist majority built into the gerrymandered northern state is gone. Agus baboil yum, shib a leg a hraslu as kudju con shaw of Wintamach. And if I was asked by anybody, how do we measure Sinn Féin? I would say, judge us on the changes we bring about. That's what Sinn Féin is, the Republican Party for positive change and equality for the people. Who here remembers Margaret Thatcher? For many of my generation, she will be forever linked with the hunger strikes. But she's more than that. Her right-wing Conservative government increased poverty and destroyed lives. Thatcherism was for tax breaks, for big business and the elites. Thatcher was against workers' rights and against public services. Do you recognise the similarities? Thatcher is gone. Thatcher is gone, but her legacy lives on in our Taoiseach. His republic, limited to 26 counties, extends only to those who get up early in the morning to go to the gym, on the way to a highly paid job with big expenses and gold-plated pensions. Well, good luck to them. But Sinn Féin makes no apologies for also standing with those who get up early to commute into cities where they cannot afford to live. We stand with those who get up early to drop their children to school, or the childminder if they can get childcare. We stand with those who care for sick friends, for neighbours or family. We stand with those living in rural Ireland without proper services and opportunities. We stand with those unable to work. We stand with citizens who work long hours for low pay or who struggle to pay health costs. Taoiseach Varadkar's Republic of Opportunity is a May Féin Republic, a contradiction. And how can Micheál Martin say he is for an Ireland for all when he's propping up a government for the few? This conservative May Féinism is a million miles away from the vision of the 1916 proclamation. A genuine republic would not allow over 3,000 children to be homeless. It would not allow patients, many of them elderly, some of them vulnerable children, to be left lying on hospital trolleys, or 600,000 people on growing hospital waiting lists. A genuine republic would support citizens with intellectual or physical disabilities and their families. A genuine republic would not tolerate disadvantage and inequality or corruption and scandals. Sinn Féin has a different set of core values from the elites who run this island. We believe in rights. We believe in freedom. We believe in equality. We believe in solidarity. Sinn Féin believes that society must be shaped so that all citizens can achieve their full potential. That includes citizens in rural Ireland, and we make no apologies for standing up for public services, including a genuine health service across this island. We believe in everyone's right to a home. We also want to extend the vote in presidential elections to the north and the diaspora. And Sinn Féin fully supports the repeal of the 8th Amendment. Women and their doctors need legal protection. Women deserve, are entitled to be trusted and respected. That's the Sinn Féin message. Brexit is the single greatest threat to Irish people for generations, and that's why we opposed the referendum and why we've consistently called for special status for the North within the European Union. Of course, we're critical of the European Union, but I want to commend our spokespersons on this issue, and especially our team of MEPs who, unlike the Irish government, have shown real leadership. The government has only recently wakened up to the reality that Brexit on British government terms is not acceptable. It will be disastrous for Irish business and farming in every single part of this island. It will destroy the rights of citizens in the north. It is not compatible with the Good Friday Agreement. Leo Varadkar needs to stand up for the interests of all the people of this island. He has a veto. Leo should use the veto. He needs to be more like Michael Collins and less like Hugh Grant. The executive collapsed 10 months ago when Martin McGuinness resigned following allegations from within the DUP of corruption by the DUP. Since March, led by Michelle O'Neill, Sinn Féin has been working hard to restore the political institutions. We want to deliver for everyone in the North on the basis of respect, tolerance and equality. And the denial of these modest rights would not be tolerated in Dublin or London. And they will not be tolerated in the 6 counties in the north of this island. The DUP's opposition to these basic rights means there is no executive. And the British government has been complicit in this. Through her pact with the DUP, Theresa May has prioritised her own political survival. And we met with the Taoiseach this week, and we'll meet with the British Prime Minister next week. And we told the Taoiseach that it's now time for the governments to act. If the executive is to be re-established, the role of the Irish government will be decisive. It can be neither neutral or neutered on this matter. These issues aren't going away, and the only way forward is through honouring agreements, not breaking them. No British government has any right to any involvement in Irish affairs. That's our credo. But until the British government leaves our country, the least they can do is to deliver on their obligations, and the least an Irish government can do is to insist on this. Those of us who want a united Ireland must articulate that clearly and in the context of the Good Friday Agreement. And we have to persuade our unionist neighbours to support a new and agreed Ireland in which orange and green can live together in prosperity and harmony. We have so much in common. We have to ensure that everyone's rights are underpinned, and an agreed Ireland has to guarantee unionists their rights. The future is for the people to decide peacefully and democratically. Several months ago, I wrote to the leaders of the political parties and the independents in the Oireachtas, proposing the establishment of an all-party committee on Irish unity. The Fianna Fáil leader has rejected this. So too has the Taoiseach. Why? Isn't it telling that the leader of Fianna Fáil, the Republican Party, and the leader of Fine Gael, the United Ireland Party, are preventing the Oireachtas from discussing the future of this island? So what will Sinn Féin do? Sinn Féin will bring forward a white paper on Irish unity. Sinn Féin will make the aim of a new agreed Ireland the primary focus of any government that we're part of. Sinn Féin will campaign for a referendum on unity to be held and to be won in the next 5 years. So don't let Leo and don't let Micheál tell you that this is not right or this is not achievable. It is achievable, and it will be achieved with or without them. Sinn Féin will be in government in the north if and when there is agreement. We need to prepare also for being in government on Republican terms in Dublin. Go Kinshasa, Brahe and Shaw are in Meds, Chakti Dala, a Topa Ugging. The Fine Gael, the Fianna Fáil, the leaderships of the Dublin establishment, including the Independent Media Group, they don't want Sinn Féin in government because they and their cronies have run this state for nearly 100 years in their own interests. And they know we will bring an end to corruption, an end to cronyism, and an end to Gumbinism. They know that a Sinn Féin-led government will mind people. If someone is in trouble, it will help them. If someone has fallen down, it will pick them up. Matadini on gan tinton, be fossil on dove. That's the sort of government that is needed, a government of equality, decency and fairness. Now, my friends, I'm very proud to have served Sinn Féin as Uachtaráin since 1983. Of course, before my time, before our time, there were other leaders who kept the flame alive, Agus Tamwich, Wake, Deivsha, Foster. And we're also very conscious that 20 of our members were murdered during the conflict. We're indebted to them and to their families. Last year, Martin McGuinness and I said there was a plan for change in the party leadership as part of the process of regeneration and renewal. I thought we needed to come here to tell you, not to tell the media, but to tell you, our comrades. 10 years after entering government with Ian Paisley, Martin's intention was to step down as Deputy First Minister on May the 8th. And then life punched us in the face. Martin's illness, the Cashbar scandal, brought that date forward. Martin was a leading member of our leadership team. I've been enormously privileged to be part of an amazing and evolving collective leadership. It has included, in times past, in hard and oppressive times and in different phases at national level, men and women like Maura Drum, John Joe McGirl, Joe Cahill, Rita O'Hare, Lucilita Brannock, Mitchell McLaughlin, Donny Morrison, Pat Doherty, Martin himself, Tom Hartley, Queven O'Quillan, Jim Gibney, Ted, Desi, Dawn, Sheena Campbell, Sean McManus, Martin Ferris, and many, many, many more. Some of them remain active today, along with many others too many for me to acknowledge. And if you're not mentioned on that list, please don't take the needle. Everybody's contribution is important. Everybody's contribution is valued. I'm looking back on a history that has passed. But may I say, I'm delighted to see so many of these comrades here, especially Councillor Joe Riley. Come Joe. Many comrades have given their entire lives to our struggle. They saw beyond the hardship of the moment and they embraced hope. And that resilience, like the peace process, is opposed by those who uphold the status quo. But despite them, we have prevailed. One of our greatest achievements has been, with John Hume and others, to build a peace process. We've also recast Sinn Féin into an effective All-Ireland Republican Party with clear policy and political objectives and the means to achieve them through democratic and peaceful forms of struggle where none existed before. Republicanism has never been stronger. This is our time. We will grow even stronger in the future, but leadership means knowing when it's time for change. And that time is now. I will not be standing for the Dáil in the next election, neither will my friend and comrade Martin Ferris. And I want to thank Martin, Marie and our clan for years of service to the Republic. This is also my last Ardèche. This is also my last Ardèche. This is the important bit. This is also my last Ardèche as Uachtaráin Sinn Féin. I will be asking the incoming Ard Comhairle to agree a date in 2018 for a special Ardèche to elect our next Uachtaráin. I have always seen myself as a team player, as a team builder. I have complete confidence in the leaders we have elected this weekend and in the next generation of leaders. And I want to thank everyone who has welcomed me into their homes and communities and who have made me part of countless campaigns, countless elections and countless negotiations. And I want to especially thank the people of West Belfast and the people of Louth, including Richard McCauley, for your unswerving support and solidarity. I firmly believe that one person can make a difference. And the first step in making a difference is believing that you can be that person. One woman, one man doing their best. That's what it takes. You don't have to do as much as Martin McGuinness did, but we all have to do our best, and we have to do it together. That's been the key of our successes so far. Doing our best, moving forward, united, strong, and together. So now, Habare, Johnny, you are important. You are the nation builders. You are the makers of the future. Finally, my thanks to Colette. I've been very lucky. We are now married 47 years. There have been ups and downs. The prison ship Maidstone, Belfast Prison, Long Cash, the Hist blocks, and years of life on the run. But love has prevailed over everything life has thrown at us. We have been blessed with Geroid, the best son anyone could wish for, and Roisin, the best daughter-in-law, and with them came Drechla and Lishna and Donna and Rudin. The gar paisty is far Stagon. Agus is magra shiv alig. So I would like my friend Martin Ferris to come up here with me. I'm feeling lonely. Mila Buejas, we're going to continue to go forward and Foblak the Boo, Lani Midja Arai, Lahelia Akarja, Mila Buejas. Margaret, Kathleen, Martin McGuinness's granddaughter, Cara, is now going to sing Around the Vein. Gotcha Shaw, Cara. And Shin, Michael, you are Cara. Be it a Hassav, Shassav.
Shin Ali Grafwell and Tafri Allegerin of will, lay gone our gale, hon bosh no sail, lay gone a screw, fue la wana belair, shian if canu haran avail.
What powers you think I have? I don't have